Hello and welcome to the final edition of 2024 Top Tens. Finally, yeah, it's January 12th now. I always knew I wasn't going to get these done in a timely manner, but we come to the final of my rankings for the year, and that is movies and shows because I don't watch too many shows, so I might as well just lump them in with movies. So I want to try and keep this one a bit shorter, which I think is possible, although this is also the category that I watched the most, that I partook the most of last year. Movies are easy to consume, I feel, because you just like you spend 2 hours on it, you're done. I don't feel like it's like a music album where it's like you really have to listen to it a couple times to get it. Um, but yeah, I feel like films are a little bit easier to sort of digest. There's a lot more out there like discussing film too, so it's like easy to go to like TV tropes or something and be like, okay, yeah, this is kind of how I felt about the film, or this is maybe a different perspective that I didn't have on the film previously. So yeah, I find it pretty easy. The again, the thing is that there was a much larger pool of candidates for movies and shows than there were for like games or the other thing, albums, that I listened to. So yeah, there's a lot that I had on my media thread that did not make it to this list. Just a couple off the top of my head: Monster with Charlize Theron, which was she was crazy in that film, and it's weird that they made her look like that. Like it's like legit movie magic. Um, let's see, I watched Asteroid City. It was all right. It was kind of fun, but not as fun as Grand Budapest, which is a little bit unfair. Um, Constantine. That was a pretty fun movie. Keanu Reeves is, he's it's interesting to see how far he's come over the years. Just because it's like, yeah. Um, oh my God, what else have I watched? I'm gonna remember all these later. I've rehearsed this like a couple of times, like just randomly, and I'm sure that every single one of those is gonna be better than this one, because I just will remember more of the movies that I watched. Yeah, Kingsman didn't make it on here. Oh man, Kingsman should have made it on here. To be honest, Kingsman: The Secret Service is actually a really good movie. Um, and it's especially unfair when I talk about number five, I think it is. So like, let's go ahead and make an adjustment to the list. Kingsman goes somewhere. It goes somewhere on the list. I think I would probably put it at like maybe number eight. Maybe that sounds about right. When we talk about number eight, I guess I can mention it. But like, I was just thinking about that. I was like, oh crap. Mostly because my dad was watching Kingsman the other day, and he was like, this is a cool movie. And I was like, yeah, it is. Like now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, huh, yeah, I guess that one should have been on there. Um, but yeah, there was a lot of good ones that I felt like I had to leave off, and that is unfortunate. Both of the Sonic movies, which will be really funny when we talk about number seven. So I like how I said both, but the third one came out. Well, I haven't seen it yet, so we're not there. So yeah, I guess we might as well get started. I'm pretty excited to talk about these because I like talking. I like talking about music. I love talking about music, and I like talking about video games. But I also do like talking about movies and stuff. So, um, yeah, we're gonna get to talk about some things, and I'm excited for it. And I guess I should get going because I don't want this to be an hour long. So where are we at? We're starting. This is gonna be the thumbnail for the video probably, and I'm gonna be upsetty about it because like people are gonna look at it and go, you stupid bastard." Oh God, I'm gonna get so much hate for this. I'm gonna get so much hate for this. But like, just hear me out. Just hear me out. All right. The Acolyte. So here's the thing. Even if it's not a stellar show, The Acolyte certainly caught my interest and a lot of other people's interests, and provided some entertainment in the over the course of the year. So here's the thing about The Acolyte, and I said this in my little mini review in my media thread. The Acolyte is kind of like a 7.5 out of 10, and you're like, what is that doing on? How did this beat Monster? Right? Like, come on now, that's a crazy film. Obviously it is. I keep mentioning it, but like, and the reason is first of all, it's pretty entertaining. First of all, the friggin' lightsaber duels in this series are good. They're just very entertaining to watch. They impress on a level that you don't really see in the Disney era. And I'm not even really like a big Disney era hater, but I have missed the like prequel style lightsaber fights. I think the biggest problem with The Acolyte is that it feels like it was done by a very amateurish team. It doesn't seem like there were any members of the production. Like, it didn't have that Jon Favreau or Dave Filoni sort of person heading it up that like knows film or the industry. Like, even though Dave Filoni hasn't done much live action, like he'd spent like a decade working on the Clone Wars and Rebels at that point. So like, you know, and I don't think there was that level of guidance with this, and I think that's one of the reasons why it turned out very awkwardly, especially for its budget. It kind of took more from the prequels than just the action sequences, because some of the dialogue is just like, and the pacing is just so bizarre and weird. I remember one of the ones that stuck out to me the most was in episode 4 when they're going to the forest looking for Kalnaka. Just to show you that I did watch the show. Like, I watched it. I remember. And this was back in June, so I remember. So, like, and like twice in that sequence of them like walking, like, and now I can't remember the main character's name. Osha like takes both Yord and Jecki aside on 2 different occasions and has these like fateful conversations with them, and it's like, this is awkward actually, and it's not a very smooth way to convey your character's thoughts. And I just like, I looked at that and I'm like, yeah, this is kind of stunted, but like, dude, I'm a fan of the prequels, dude. Like, we will affectionately quote, sand is coarse and rough and it gets everywhere. Like, you know, there's something lovable about the prequel dialogue, and I think it's because it comes from a place of like weird naivete from its characters. Like, Anakin is a socially awkward dude. I guess Osha would be a socially awkward person as well, but like, you know, I think the other big problem with this show is that no one while filming realized that oh my god, I'm gonna butcher his name, Lee Jung Jae, whoever played Soul, that guy. I don't think anyone realized that he was going to be the most lovable man on the planet. I was rooting for Soul the entire time because he was just a sweet man who loved what he was doing and was trying to do the best for people that he came to care about. And you're not going to convince me otherwise. And then at the very end of the show, I was like, oh, no, I was supposed to be rooting for the girls. And I was like, oops. So like, I think that there were some flaws in this show, but I like, it's different. It's different from the other Star Wars shows. I like that it's almost completely separated from like the Skywalker saga stuff. Like, there's nothing, like there is very little connective tissue between that, between this and that. Like, the action is really cool. Like, the small things that it adds to the live action Star Wars. You're like, yellow lightsabers, that's new. The cool like lightsaber, like mini lightsaber, the little lightsaber cheese knife that the bad guy uses. The Cortosis helmet, like, that's like, it's cool shit that they use to enhance and make these things unique. And I think the concept is really good. I think that the Star Wars universe needs ideas like this, and they're not all going to be a 10 out of 10. I think that this show could have been much improved through some rewrites. Certainly, just sharpening up the dialogue in a way that makes it way more Star Wars-y, and like, boy, can we work on making the main characters like more likable. It has really nothing to do with the actress that played them. But like, they were like OSHA, for example. Like May was a big ass brat. Like she was just like, hey, I'm gonna kill people because I'm right. And it's like, okay, no subtlety to her character at all. At no point does she realize any different. Like, oh shit, maybe what I'm doing is not good. And OSHA's just like, I'm not really gonna take any action ever. Like, I just want to make sure my sister's okay, but am I gonna do anything clever to try and make sure that happens? No. I'm just gonna talk to the people that I'm. Anyways, I could do a whole video on this, and I'm gonna try not to. But yeah, no, I liked The Acolyte as a Star Wars show. I liked that I didn't know what was gonna happen. I thought that the central mystery was a little weak. It's got that Xenoblade 2 problem where it's like, all right, audience, we're clearly not telling you a thing that many of our main characters already know, so have fun with that shit. And when you get to it, it kind of doesn't cut the mustard, so to speak. It doesn't really satisfy all that intrigue that happened, and I kind of wish you would have just spent more time in the present. You know, there were any number of more satisfying conclusions, I think. Like the Horned Lady, she should have came back, right? She could have been like the master or something. I don't know. I saw that theory and I was like, that would be kind of interesting, wouldn't it? Because she was pretty sus, man. But they didn't really make anything of that. They were just like, nah, man. Soul bad guy. Like, I don't know. Kind of. But yeah, no, number 10 was The Acolyte. It was very entertaining. People shit on this show way too much. It doesn't deserve it. It's Star Wars. There are some that, look, I hate to break it to you, there's some bad Star Wars media. There's some bad Star Wars shit out there, dudes. It's real. I don't know. Whatever it is. Oh, it's DEI. It's woke. Whatever. Look, man, it passes. You know. Again, a lot when it comes to Star Wars stuff, a lot of it I like sort of base against my dad because my dad's got very little of that in his brain. He doesn't care. And like, I don't know, I don't even think he noticed that there were like no white dudes in the cast. So I was like, whatever. Like it doesn't, well, I mean, other than that one guy, Torben. But like, I don't know, it's the people who complain about that or have that as an underlying complaint or use, oh, Ki-Adi-Mundi's not supposed to be this, like, he's a fucking space wizard, dude. He's got a cone for a head. Like, he can be old. He looks goddamn ancient. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, people are so like, oh, this ruins Anakin's story. No, it doesn't. The Anakin story is Anakin's story. Anakin's story is the first time we hear, like, I don't know. People nitpick too much. Just enjoy it. Okay, next thing. So the next movie, number 9, is, oops, I don't have this clicked on the right thing, do I? Okay, hang on. There we go. Oh, that's hard to read. It's Abigail. So, number 9's kind of a tied spot between Abigail and Crimson Peak. They're rather similar, you know, they're in the same genre. I guess they're not really all that similar. A lot of these movies, hilariously enough, are just about big houses. And in fact, the first movie I watched in 2025, Knives Out, is also about a big house. So Abigail is a horror movie. And I don't know how much of it to spoil because, like, the trailer spoiled the twist. That they kind of keep secret for most of the movie, as if you haven't seen the trailer, or like this is the more tame version of the poster. So basically, this group of 6 criminals kidnap this little ballerina girl seen on the poster. Her name's Abigail, and they take her to this safe house where they have to keep her for 24 hours. In order for their boss, Giancarlo Esposito. Is that how you say his name? Giancarlo? I don't know how you actually say his name. But that's who plays him. I forget the actual character's name because he's Giancarlo Esposito. And I just added a C to his last name. Okay, I'm real good. But like, yeah. So they have to keep her for 24 hours. And like, at first it's like, okay, cool, what's going to happen? And then it's like, oh man, these 6 criminals kind of hate each other. So, like, are they going to start killing each other for shares of the take on this job? Like, I don't know. I was playing GTA when I watched this movie. Like, not at the same time, but, like, around it. So I would, I was like, oh man, are they gonna start like killing each other for the take? Like that would be interesting. Like, oh man, it's kind of like a naturally formed Danganronpa sort of plot. And then they were like, they found out that her father was somebody important, and then they got all scared, and they're like, oh my god, he's gonna send an assassin after us. We have to, we have to defend ourselves. And then it's kind of like, well, the assassin is one of us, and then like shit kind of goes haywire, and it's like, all right, like this is cool and all, but I kind of wanted to see that original concept. So that like would have been cool, but I guess the trailer spoiled this, because the whole time that was going on, I was like, wait a second. Didn't the trailer say that she was a vampire? And then like that finally happened, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess it is. But what made me more interested, what made me place Abigail over Crimson Peak? Crimson Peak is a beautiful movie. Plot's a little thin. I love the actors and actresses in it. That's really good. The set design in that is crazy. But what made me appreciate Abigail more was just that it was like kind of a more fun movie. Like it really was just like, all right, we're taking you for a ride. We're taking you all over the place. All these, like, we don't care if these plot twists even really make that much sense. Like, they kind of do, but also, whatever. It's fucking cool. So, yeah, I mean, by the end of it, I was kind of like, I don't know how I feel about this, really. I don't know if this is really the conclusion I wanted to get to, but I get it, and it's kind of cool. It freaked me out because I thought one of the actors... the guy who played the glasses former detective man, I think. I forget what his character was. I thought he was played by Matthew Good from Watchmen. And I did the IMDb thing or whatever, and it was like, no, he wasn't. And then Matthew Good showed up at the end of the movie. I was like, what the fuck? Like, did I predict this? It was so weird. That was an odd moment of satisfaction for me. But yeah, no, Abigail was a really fun movie. Obviously, it's horror. There's a lot of freaky imagery. The child actress that plays Abigail is really good. Yeah, she's real good, actually. She will piss you off. And also, just like, everyone in this movie will piss you off, but that's kind of the point. Everyone's kind of a terrible person in this movie, and I think that's what's great about it. It doesn't take itself super seriously, and I always appreciate that. And good lord, will this movie alone, I think, has kept the squib business afloat for like the past 5 years, or for the next 5 years, because this was made last year. But like, yeah, it's pretty wild. It's a pretty good movie. It's not, again, I think it could have been better if it just like stuck to the ground a little bit more, but it really decides to go big and go ham, which is not an awful thing, I guess. So, but yeah, it is a good movie. So let's keep going, because we're at 18 minutes and I'm only at number 8. Number 8 is The Fugitive. So I would also put Kingsman here. Because I think I kind of did enjoy Kingsman more than The Fugitive, but like The Fugitive, I think was the first movie I watched last year. I don't have a ton to say about it, which is great because I've had a ton to say about the first 2 entries. It's just a solid movie. This is one of the older movies on the list, which is sad because it's younger than me. But it's a really good movie in that, like, you just don't know what's going to happen next. It's not like one of those big pop culture hits where it's like, you kind of know everything by proxy or whatever. It's just like, it's a good, solid movie where you don't really know what's going to happen, Is he going to get captured? Is he going to figure out what actually happened? What is actually going to happen? Like, the twist actually does kind of hit. I remember the final sequence being kind of like, well, this is a little bit less exciting and a little more overblown than like what the rest of the movie was leading up to. But I really did enjoy this movie. I love Harrison Ford. He's just so goddamn charming in everything that he's in, pretty much. Even when he doesn't like give a shit, it's so good. But yeah, no, I did really I did enjoy this movie, and I kept thinking about it. I was like, you know what, that's a good movie. So that's why it's number 8. It probably could have been number 9, actually. And Kingsman could have been there. Kingsman was really good. You should watch Kingsman. So yeah, all right, let's move on to number 7. Oh yeah, this one's funny. Detective Pikachu. Remember when I said I watched both Sonic movies? the thing that gets me about Detective Pikachu is the sheer amount of respect that it has for the Pokemon franchise. Like, this was written to work itself into a massive existing Pokemon world in a way that is very tasteful and respectful. And I think I think its approach to making a video game movie is just like, it's just chef's kiss, man. Because it doesn't try to fit into the existed canon. It doesn't like try to adapt that, but it's in the same world as that. And there are so many little hints throughout, like that kind of state that. And it's just like, but it does its own thing. Like, one of the brilliant things about this movie is, like, you know, its visual style, right? Because, like, it's got a good visual style even outside of the Pokemon, but, like, the Pokemon themselves are, like, the designs are fresh and new versions of these designs that we've had for 30 years, you know, almost. So it was, like, exciting to see what Pokemon would pop up next out of the, you know, 900 that were available at the time. To the point where, like, I kind of cheered. I would have lost my shit in the theater when Pikachu grabs that Magikarp and is like, it evolves into Gyarados, and I'm like, fuck yeah, let's go. Sorry, I got really excited. But no, I would just be like, I was excited. I was like, oh my god, we're getting to see Gyarados. And at that moment, I was like, that's a really cool element of this movie that like Sonic doesn't really hit, because it's like, we're gonna show you most of the cool things in the trailer. Like, you're gonna see Knuckles, you're gonna see Tails, like, you're gonna see Shadow. But in Pokemon, it's like there are so many different things you can do with it because there are hundreds of different Pokemon. As a movie, solid concept. It does new things. It's a bit weird. The concept of the villain's endgame is a bit weird. Did not know Bill Nighy was in this movie, and I love him. Like, I just want, oh my god. Like, if I were on the set of that film, I would just be like, hey, Bill, can you just during one take, can you just lean in and be like, do you fear death, Pikachu? Like, that would be so fucking hilarious. Anyways, no, the plot was okay. I did not really like Pikapool. Oh my god. There could have been like 20 to 30% less quips in this movie. And I would have been completely fine with that. There was a joke where he like peed under the table or something. Did not need that. There was a joke where he was like, all I hear are consonants and all I see are nipples. And it's like, that is, what is this shit? Like, what are we doing here? I wish the like plot would have been a little tighter. I guessed the twist with Pikachu like a third of the way through the movie when he was comforting Tim. It's such a look. No offense to Tim, and especially not my buddy Nintendo Capri Sun, but like, what a basic ass name for a protagonist, Tim Goodman. Like, I don't know, that's a weird, but like, no, I really enjoyed, I enjoyed Detective Pikachu, and when I watched it, I was kind of like, okay, whatever. There were some elements of it that I thought were a little bit, like the final battle, it's like, oh, between Pikachu and Mewtwo or whatever, like, wow, it's not really a spoiler, I guess, but like, you know, it's like that, a little weird that they couldn't think of something better for Mewtwo, literally the most powerful Pokemon, which they state in the movie, so, I don't know, kind of weird. Like, the plot was pretty basic, but, like, good. It did keep me guessing a bit. And it did have good hints throughout. So, like, it's a good thing. It's a good movie. It really is a solid movie. I'm glad I finally watched it. So, yeah. And just, like, the sheer respect it has for Pokemon, the very smart designs that make you excited to see who's coming up next. Like, man, it's hard to believe that this movie is 5 or almost 6 years old, and did not get a sequel. That's crazy. I mean, I know there's a sequel probably in development, but like, man, that's a little wild. Number 6 is Inglourious Basterds. I think mostly this is on here because I had seen clips of the movie, pretty much all of them involving the Bastards, and most of them involving Christoph Waltz's character. This is the third Tarantino movie that I've seen. And it's just it's good. Like it's Tarantino movie. Like I don't know. I probably could have put this lower on the list, but it is very entertaining. And honestly, some of the scenes that I hadn't seen, like the scenes involving the girl at the theater, like I liked those. I liked those scenes a lot actually. I thought those were I thought it was I thought that was like an interesting subplot, and I liked how they all converged at the end. Um, so and I love I love Tarantino's revisionist history. That one of the only other movies of his I've seen is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So yeah, that too. But yeah, I mean it's a really fun movie that just does not give a shit. Christoph Waltz is a very fun villain in this. One of my one of my favorite scenes is when they go to the movie premiere and the bastards are trying to be Italian and fucking and Hans Lanza loses it at how bad their accents are, and like as a viewer you're like, oh my god, their shit's cooked, and they're just like not even reacting to it because they're just like they just give no shits. Um or they have no idea how bad they actually are, and like the actress they're with is like, I'm fucking dead. Like it's like, and the movie's brutal about it because you know what, she fucking is. She fucking gets murdered in the next scene. um so like yeah, I don't know, it's a really fun movie in that regard. Tarantino's movie making is always pretty honest, you know. It just does not care. It's always fun. It's always there's something always so fun and stylistic and irreverent about the way that Tarantino makes movies that like if I watch one this year, will it end up on a list? Probably. So yeah, Inglourious Bastards. It was a fun watch. Probably as high as it is because like god damn it, I finally watched this entire movie after seeing so many clips from it. So yeah, there it is. What are we on now? Number 5? I think this one's number 5. Yeah. What is it? Last Night in Soho. I think this movie is mostly on here so I can tell people about it. I tend to watch movies for actors. The Fugitive, Crimson Peak, of all sorts of different movies. Probably ones I'm already forgetting on this list. But I watched this one from my buddy Matt Smith. I like how I said that as if you were like a buddy in the same way that I'm buddies with Nintendo Capri Sun. Like, okay. But no, I watched it for Matt Smith. There's not enough in this movie, but like honestly, it's a fun movie. The second act drags a bit, and I don't think it works. It tries to be a horror film, but it doesn't really like. The entire second act of this movie is the main character just like going places and getting scared, and it's like, okay, move on, please. The first act of the movie is enchanting. Ellie goes to fashion school in London, and she sees ghosts, and that's basically what's happening throughout the movie. And she starts having these weird, like, dreamlike flashbacks to the 60s. And she meets this, well, she doesn't really meet, but she, like, might be this girl named Sandy, and it's like, you really have no idea what's going on. And then the second act happens, and it's like, we're still not telling you what's going on. And then the third act happens, and they're like, all right, we're telling you what's going on, but it's not as interesting as what you thought it would be. And then the third act kind of gets good again. And then it kind of, and then the movie ends, obviously. But like, it was a really interesting film. I haven't seen very many Edgar Wright movies, so I was excited to catch this one. And it was good. I really liked it. Anya Taylor-Joy, she's the real deal. She rocks those 60s outfits. Even if she even if her character doesn't really want to. The pink dress from this movie is kind of immaculate. I don't know what else to say. The girl who plays Ellie is also really charming. She's very cute. And Matt Smith's in it. I kind of wish he was in it a little more because I liked Matt Smith, but it's interesting to see him in a role like this. But like, very cool, like visually. I love the mirror shots. Like, those are super cool and must have taken a lot of work. Just a lot really cool about this movie, and another one where it's like where you go back and watch it a second time. Much like I like a lot of mystery thriller movies, obviously, but like this one is really cool because like if you go back and watch all the visual stuff that they're doing in the beginning, like it really does a cool job of like helping you understand what's going on, you know, or like leading up to it or misleading you, because there's a lot of that, unfortunately. But like, yeah, it's a really good movie. It's a really solid film. And I liked it quite a bit. So that's why it ends up here at number 5. We are not leaving the EU for this next one. So we're going to Saltburn. Oh my fucking god, Saltburn. I went into this movie completely... I didn't know what it was about. I was like, I know it's good. I think there's a vampire. Do I like vampire movies? I guess. I don't know. I thought maybe there was a vampire, but I think I was thinking of another movie that is like 2 single syllable words put together like this. There's kind of a vampire in this movie. And it's kind of fucking awesome. This movie is actually just kind of fucking awesome, actually. Oh man. I think part of the, so like this, how did I stumble onto this one? I swear to God, I've heard Eye Patch Wolf talk about it, but I could not find the video where he talks about it. And also, I was interested in the main actor. His name's Barry Keoghan. And I think he's Irish or something. He is Irish. That's how I know, because like Eye Patch Wolf talked about him. He's like, oh, it's this Irish bloke, and I'm like, oh, okay. He plays the Joker in the Batman. So I was kind of interested for that reason too. Also, I like Richard E. Grant. Found out Rosamund Pike is British. So that's an interesting thing. But yeah, no, this is such a batshit insane movie because I had no idea where it was going for most of it. And once it got going, it was like, oh, the dominoes fall. I don't want to spoil it too much, but like so first of all, you got to know this is an R-rated movie. It is pretty gross. Oh, I just remembered one of the weirdest, grossest things from this movie. That scene is so weird. Most people who think of the movie most people who know this movie are probably like, he can be talking of like one of 3 scenes here. Bathtub part 1, I think, is probably how I'm going to describe that scene. And now you're like, oh god, what the hell? There is blood. There is some sexy. Sexy is not the word. But yeah, no, it was so funny watching this movie. I wish I kind of would have like filmed me reacting to it. It had me when they played Block Party's This Modern Love, because I fucking love that song. So like that's a really good way to get me into your I'm like, oh my god, they're playing This Modern Love. This truly is a yaoi. And which will make people who know this movie laugh hysterically, because only kind of. But like, yeah, no, really cool movie. Super brutal, kind of depressing, depending on who you like and hate. And my god, is that ending scene memorable for reasons. Just, man, it just never stops with this movie. It's pretty wild. Do people like, this is a random question, but like, do people like Jacob Elordi? Is he going places? Do women fawn over him? Because he seems like a really attractive dude. I don't know. Is that a thing? I don't know. Anyways, number 4, Saltburn. What a wild movie. Glad I watched it. Another movie about a big house that they don't get to until an hour into the film. Just like Crimson Peak, actually. I don't know. The truth is, I really like movies about big houses. Grand Budapest Hotel, what is it if not a big house? That's one of my favorite movies, by the way. So, all right, number 3. I am kind of cheating for number 3. Is Batman the Animated Series. Technically, I've already seen it. I know, like Paper Mario rules, this should be disqualified. But here's the thing about Batman the Animated Series. It's so goddamn good that I don't care. It's been probably what 20 some years since I've watched an episode from this like in full. I watched series. What is this, Doctor Who? I watched season 1 through 5. Season 5's a little weird, and I don't like many of the redesigns. But yeah, Batman the Animated Series is as praised as it should be. It is not overrated. People will be like, "Oh, is it overrated?" No, it's not overrated. This show is so freaking good. And this show is also really good in like if you think about the context or if you were alive for the context that it aired in. I mean, it was airing next to classic Hanna-Barbera cartoons and why am I thinking about Hysteria? Then not really. Animaniacs and Tiny Toons Adventures, and then there's Batman the Animated Series. It's so different, and yet it's so just very smartly written, and just very like the style of it. It's just like it's creative on every cylinder in a way that makes the best kind of show. The visuals are really interesting, well done, creative, fits the mood of the show. The music and sound effects are really good. Shirley Walker deserves her flowers for the soundtrack on this show. All of the little leitmotifs fit each character and villain to the point where like there was an episode that opened with the Mad Hatter's theme, and I was like, oh, is the Mad Hatter part of this? And it's like, oh yeah, well the episode didn't really want you to know, but the music sure did. The voice actors obviously are iconic. Kevin Conroy's Batman couldn't have gotten anybody better. Lived most of my childhood not knowing that Luke Skywalker was the Joker. I know everyone talks about that now, but like it was crazy discovering that for yourself being a teenager in the YouTube era. The writing is on point, so much so like it's digestible for kids, but adults really will understand what is going on. Great example, so many of Batman's villains aren't villains on their own. They're villains because rich corporate assholes decided to be rich corporate assholes, and thus created these villains. And it's like Clayface and Catwoman and Poison Ivy, and there's another one that I'm thinking of, Mr. Freeze. That's the big one. Like so many of these villains are made by the Riddler even. So many of those villains were made by other bigger people, like stopping them from being who they are, or pulling the plug on very important research, or just like doing things that they otherwise shouldn't be doing. And the real villains of the show are Daggett and Daggett again, and all of these other like rich people. And it's like, that's so cool, man. That's so real. It's also terrifying that they knew all this shit 30 years ago and were writing a TV show for children about it, and yet somehow we still have the present that we have. It's kind of weird. It was super relevant to today, and I'm like, oh man, that's just, it's like, it's a very, very well put together show, and I love that. And I just like, I have to talk about it, and I have to give it its mentions because rewatching it was so much fun. And even more than so much fun, I was so invested in it. I was so interested in any time a villain came back. Ooh, what are they doing this time? It's like, it was just super cool. It's a really, really great show. I mean, there could have been 3 or 4 more seasons of it, and I would have really liked it. Season 5 though, not my favorite. I came to realize that I was more familiar with the Batman that they show in Justice League, who's this like stoic, almost kind of jerk ass, sort of like superior feeling, jaded kind of Batman. Like I was kind of surprised how actually compassionate Batman was in the animated series for the first couple of seasons. So, but like really good in that regard. I mean, it's not over the top action. Like it makes sense. Batman gets beat up, he gets hurt. It's not like he's invincible or anything. Like, I don't know. It's really cool. It's just it is it's every bit a good show as it is hyped up to be. It's just one of those things. It's just as good as it is. You know what I mean? And I couldn't not talk about it. Like it was just yeah, maybe a little high on the list for what it is, but you know, whatever. But these next two are not too high on the list. I'm so excited. Number 2 is Shattered Glass. I watch movies for actors. Wanted to see Hayden Christensen in a movie that wasn't Star Wars or Jumper. People always talk about that, like when the prequels started being defended online, and people would talk about Hayden Christensen as an actor because people love to attack Hayden Christensen as an actor. People would be like, "No, go watch Shattered Glass. It's really good. He can act in that movie." And Shattered Glass kind of is that movie. And going in rooting for Hayden Christensen to be good in this movie is the perfect way to go into this movie. I cannot spoil this for you. I need, like, out of any movie on this list, like, I'll recommend any movie on this list. This is the one I really want you to go watch. So what it is, Hayden Christensen plays Stephen Glass. He is a reporter for the New Republic magazine. And yes, you get to hear Hayden Christensen say the words "the New Republic," and he pronounces it just the way he does in Star Wars, and it tickles my funny bone. Yeah, so he's a reporter for the New Republic. He is getting all the scoops. He is kicking all the ass. He is making a scene in the biz. Shit, what's the first word in the title? What even? No, it's such an interesting movie, and it got me in the way that I think it was supposed to, because I watched the movie and I was like, this is dumb. I was like, I don't know how I like this movie. I don't think that people were very nice. And I started reading about the fact that this was based on a true story. And I started reading about what that story was, and I was like, oh, it got me. And then I realized that, like, most of the way that this film presents its plot points are very intentional. And there's kind of a, like, perspective shift that happens. And I think it's one of the most brilliant things that I've seen. I'm probably overselling it. But to me, looking back at the movie with the context that I had afterwards, I was just like, that is a really well-made movie. It is the... there's a phrase, there's a phrase that, damn, I really want to use, but I think it would be a bit too spoilery. But there's... this movie is very modern, very applicable to modern times, for reasons. I might actually just do another video about this movie so that I can do spoilers. But like, this is a movie that has stuck with me. I watched it back in like the spring or something, I think, and I have literally, every time I think about, oh, what movies did I enjoy this year? This one always comes up, and I'm always like, yeah, that was really good. It got me. It got me so good. And I just, like, I've never really watched a movie like that. I'll never forgive it for what it did to me. I love it. No, really, 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 really good movie. It's very interesting. If you're not really into, like, the historical drama, maybe not so interesting. But, yeah, and, like, Hayden Christensen with his... a boy-like understanding of emotions and stuff, he was perfect for this part, actually. Like, it's like, it doesn't look like good acting, but it's actually kind of perfect in hindsight. And it's like, yeah, this actually super fucking works, and I love that about it. So yeah, very, very good movie. I could probably put this at number 1. But then I remembered what my number 1 was, and I was like, actually, yeah, let's talk about this. So, number 1, or should I say, number -1, Godzilla minus one is the pretty much the best movie I watched last year. Shattered Glass did some interesting things, but Godzilla minus one is just it's just an awesome movie. It does so many impossible things that you wouldn't think would be good, but are, and it's, oh man, what a good fucking movie this is. Um, I can't think of very many movies that I cried for this year. This was one of them though. Just it plays its cards exactly right. I won't say that it does like a ton new, but the way that it sets itself up, the way that it builds its story and it builds its confrontation is how it's just textbook how you make movies, honestly. Um like the final sequence in this movie is really what takes it from like a 9 to a 10 to me. Because it gives you all the cards. It lays its entire hand out on the table before the final confrontation starts. It lays all the cards out. You know what's going to happen. You just have to like put them in order, but to see all of those things sort of play out is so satisfying. And just to have it end the way that it does is just like, it's so satisfying. Like it's so smart too, because like it gives you what you want. Like a lot of movies today just are not made like movies used to be, where it was like, oh, everything's got to wrap up nicely. Like a lot of movies are like, okay, no, we don't have to do that because it's avant-garde. No, Godzilla minus one is like, here's a bow, here's a ribbon, here's some sparkles. Like, there you go. Have a good day. And it's just oh man. I think part of the reason I was kind of weepy eyed at this one wasn't because it was sad. It's because it was, well, I think Puss in Boots: The Last Witch was kind of the way. It's like, it was like tears of joy because it was like, oh, it's beautiful. It's just beautiful. And it's funny because the way this movie plays out, it's like, it has that typical Godzilla syndrome where like you're 40 minutes into the movie and you realize you're still with the human characters and you're like, wait a second, I don't give a frick about these human characters. Like, can we go back to Godzilla, please? I haven't seen him in 30 minutes and it wasn't even really that much of a see him sort of thing. So not only is Godzilla's re-entrance into the film freaking cool as hell, but also I did start to care about the human characters like a lot, which is really impressive in a Godzilla film about Godzilla. And there was a point where it was like, by the end of the movie, I was like, yeah, fuck Godzilla. I was like, fuck him. I hope the humans win. And that's like such a weird thing to think in a Godzilla movie. But yeah, it's very masterfully created. And like, when you learn that this shit was done on a budget, and the fact that it does not look like a budget because Godzilla looks amazing. He's so intimidating and scary, just like crazy looking. Oh man, it's just such a well put together film. Like, you hear the stories of like, hey, I took my girlfriend to see this film and she didn't really want to see it. She just kind of like, okay, I'll go because you want to see it. And she was crying, but it's like, that's the kind of film this is. It really is like, it more than a Godzilla film. It's just film. It's just cinema. You know, it's really awesome. It's a really, really good movie. It's the total package. Like, I can recommend it very easily. I don't care who you are. Godzilla Minus One's a great movie. So there it is, my top 10 movies of this year. Again, I watched a lot of movies. Not a lot of movies, but like, I probably could have done a top 20, maybe? Top 15 easily, certainly. But yeah, I just had a lot of fun watching movies this year. Watched a lot of movies, enjoyed a lot of movies. And these were the best that I watched, I feel, or the ones that I enjoyed the most or thought about the most, at least. So yeah, tell me your favorite movies in the thing below, or any good ones that you watched in 2024. recommend me a movie. Maybe it'll end up here in 2025. And you can ask me anything about any of the movies on the list or whatever, and I'll be happy to talk more about them. We're well into 2025 now. I hope everyone's had a good year so far, and I hope it continues. I hope it ends up being a good year, hopefully. But yeah, let me know if you watch any of these movies too and what you thought. So yeah, have a great one. That's all I got.